Good morning. Thanks, Nick.
That doesn't need a CPR.
Good luck to you.
Say that what I need to do?
You can do nothing. Put it in your back pocket and roll.
Oh, okay.
Get it.
Hey Chris, don't be nervous. There's about 10,000 people watching your live.
Yeah, no, it's just, I was just, like I was telling bro earlier, man, I've done this
No pressure.
probably 150, maybe 400 times over the last 4 years, in just one-on-one, across the desk from me, but never in front of a bunch of guys. So bear with me, okay?
Say hi to them.
Yeah, well, I move around too, okay? So I got to move around because I'm kind of nervous. So my talk is about how God is in charge.
Amen.
And I'm going to try to get through this. And I got three verses that come to mind, and always have come to mind as how much he is in charge. The first two are from Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. And along with that, Jeremiah 29:11. For I know you. I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope in the future.
Amen.
And finally, Ephesians. And this is the greatest of all in my mind. We get to take part. We were born in Christ, and he has set plans of good works for you to do, prepared in advance, not as you go along, not that you got charge of. He's prepared them in advance, and all we got to do is make the choice to do them.
Amen. That's good.
Now my journey. My mother, I'm a Midwest boy, born and raised in Kansas, right smack dab in the middle of the United States. Can't get much more American than that. That's a quote from Superman, in case you didn't. Anyway, I'm no Superman. I know who's in charge. And that's the greatest thing, because thank God he's in charge, because if I was in charge, man, I'd have screwed it up. And I screwed it up a lot throughout my life. So I'm glad he's in charge, not me. But my mother told me she lost 2 children before me. And I'm not named after anybody in my family. My dad was named after his dad and wanted to name me after him, but my mom said, nope. If I get this one, he's named for the strongest man I know in the Bible. So I was named Christopher David, and I picked Joseph as my confirmation name. So Christopher David Joseph. So probably from that, you're probably figuring he's got to be Catholic. And I was born and raised a Catholic. I don't go to Catholic church anymore because for whatever reason, I never felt like I got to know God through that. And I never felt like I got a relationship with him. But I did have a priest when I was a kid, and I was an altar boy. And one time I was back in the vestibule. I think that's what they call it still. And we were putting away all his garments and shining his chalice and everything. And his name was Father Forgy. And I'll never forget the man. And I asked him, I said, what do we do this all for? I mean, you get up there and you drink wine out of a chalice, and you pray every Sunday the same prayers, and we pray the same prayers. What is this all for? And he told me, he said, Chris, there's one thing I want you to remember. The most important thing you got is your relationship with God. Everything else is pomp and circumstance. Keep it simple. Love God, do mercy, do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly. And that comes from the Bible, and I don't remember the verse, but thank you. And he told me that, and it always stuck with me. Keep it simple. Don't get it complicated. All this other stuff's pomp and circumstance. So as I was growing up, I was pretty good with numbers. And I liked numbers. I stuck to them. Because numbers is the only thing that I think in higher education that's concrete. There's no subjectivity to it. You can be from Russia, you can be from China, you can be from Afghanistan, you can be from wherever you're at. 2 + 2 = 4. Amen. And there's no question about it, okay? And as far as I'm concerned, it's concrete. And I could always hang my hat on it, and I stuck with it. So I became a numbers guy. And I told my dad, who had his own business at the time, I was going to go live in California and become a CPA there. So he sold his business before I graduated from the University of Kansas and came out to California with my mother to have her be around her family for the rest of her life. And when I graduated, he came back and saw me graduate from the University of Kansas. And then I came out to California. I was recruited by 4 of the big 8. Now that's about the big 4 or something like that. I don't know. I never paid much attention. I was recruited by them, and I told them all, I said, you know, you put me out in San Diego and I'll go to work for you. Looked at me and just kind of smocked, just like I just did, and said, yeah, everybody wants to move to San Diego. And I said, well, I'm going to move there. So if you want to hire me, I'll work for you out in San Diego. And all of them said, no, we can't do that. And I said, well, then I'm not going to work for you. So I came out to California and I went to work for a company down in El Centro. And that's where I got my feet into public accounting, and I always have been in it since. And I run my own practice up here in Murrieta. It's kind of in a little back country up there. It's called Golden Gate Circle. You can probably all see it as you're going up the freeway here. You look off to the left and you'll see what used to be a boat place, but now it's called We Care. It's a havoc place. And that's Golden Gate Circle. And you kind of get to it going around down Madison or up Elm off of Jefferson. So anyway, I get out here in 1976 and started working for a CPA firm. In 1979, I met the one of my life, angel from God, that's taken care of me and shown me respect that's what a man needs. I heard it said by somebody else earlier in another speech that what men crave is respect. We crave a lot of things, but what we want the most is respect. And that's what women bless us with. And women, they live for love. Okay? So anyway, that's another story.
Part 2.
Yeah. I was born Christopher David, and I was born AB positive, which means I'm the universal receiver. My plan? No, not my plan at all. Why? That'll come in a few minutes. But that means I could take your blood, your blood, your blood, your blood, anybody's blood in this room. Doesn't matter. Anybody's organ in this room. Doesn't matter. Okay? I'm the universal receiver. 3% of the entire population of the earth is my AB positive. So I don't know why, but he had a plan. Okay? In like I said, 1976, I married my wife, or 1979, I met my wife. In 1980, I married her. We had 2 girls and then my boy in 1990. And I started getting a relationship with God about that time. And about that same time, my brother and I always fish. He lives right up here in Canyon Lake, works for the VA. We were fishing up in a lake called Silverwood Lake up near Hemet, up that way. Pretty big lake. It's out in the wilderness kind of there. And we're out there fishing around. There's a bunch of guys over there in the cove just jumping up and down, screaming and hollering and pointing at the water and yelling stuff. And we tool all over there in our boat, and we're hearing him say, "Hombre, hombre, hombre, que pasa, in the water," right? And we figured, yeah, there must be somebody in the water or something. So we strip off our shoes, and like a couple of good Boy Scouts, we dove into the water. And I've dove to the bottom of the lake hundreds of times. We used to do it all the time. So you come up with the most mud or whatever we could come up with. And it was no problem. We just kept diving. I went down twice, and he went down 3 times. And pretty soon we both ran into somebody. And brought him up on the shore, and he started CPR, and I started mouth to mouth. And of course, he regurgitated into my mouth 3 or 4 times, spitting up blood, water and stuff. We got a heartbeat going, got him in the boat, tooled him back over to the docks, and then that place is kind of out in the wilderness there, so they didn't drive a ambulance up there. They flew in, and of course, before they left, one of the guys asked, "Did anybody give him mouth to mouth?" And I said, "Well, yeah, that'll be me." And he said, "Well, we'll get in touch with you if he's got any communicable diseases." Well, about a month and a half later, I got a letter from the San Bernardino Emergency Corps that said he had hepatitis non-A, non-B. They didn't name it back then, but the next year, by the end of the next year, this is about 94, they named it. It's called hepatitis C. Hepatitis C is called the silent killer. And it's like you're a manic alcoholic. It gives you cirrhosis of the liver really fast. And I mean, you'd have to drink a 5th of whiskey a day to get the kind of cirrhosis that this does to you, in a short period of time. So I decided at that time, I had a doctor that said, do not take the only medication they got, which was called interferon. Because he said, quite frankly, it'll make you sicker than a dog for at least a year, and you've got an 80% chance you're going to get it right back. I was like, that's horrible odds. And so I didn't. About 3 to 4 years later, they started mixing it with ribavirin. And ribavirin is a acne disease treatment, okay? And when they mixed it with that, it cut back the get it right back to about 10%. But still, you had to make yourself sicker than a dog, because it is an isotope, just like chemotherapy, for about a year. And you have to give yourself a shot every day. And that changed in about 1998 or 99, where they made it something that would last for 2 days. So you could give yourself a shot every couple of days. Big deal. You still made yourself sicker than a dog. And that's when they finally figured out there's about 4 different strains of the hepatitis C. And I happen to have the worst one. So, and that is, the doctor told me, well, we'll only give it to you for a maximum of 3 months. Because in that 3-month period of time, we'll figure out whether it's going to do you good or not. And I went, what? He said, well, your particular strain, after 3 months, we'll figure out whether it's going to do you good or not. And what do you mean by not? And he said, well, there's a 50-50 chance that it'll not only not make you better, it'll make you sicker faster. I'm like, okay, so let me see if I got this right. I make myself sicker than a dog for 3 months with a 50-50% chance that it'll not only not do me good, it'll make me worse. Yeah, that's about right. No, I'm not doing that. I don't feel bad. I was playing handball, I was working out, I was doing everything. I didn't feel bad at all. And that was only like 7 or 8 years into the disease. And the doctor even told me, he said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because you only got your enzymes are only at about 10%. And I said, well, I've turned into a vegetarian. And that was pretty hard, because I grew up in the Midwest. Meat and potatoes were my staple, right? So it was pretty hard just becoming a vegetarian. But I did okay. I'm still a vegetarian to this day.
Amen.
Anyway, I was just doing fine. I was like I said, I was playing handball. I'm a handball freak, and I'm playing again. And I was working out, and I felt good. And that's why they call it the silent killer, because you really don't feel it. Okay, it just cirrhosis hardens your liver. Everybody's liver gets hard over age. Mine just got harder a heck of a lot faster than usual. Okay, so about 2013, I was not feeling good. I'd stopped playing handball in the latter part of, or the mid-12, and things were just falling apart. I just didn't feel worth a dang, and didn't know how bad it was until October 2013. It took me down. What I didn't realize is that when your liver stops working really well, your body gets innovative. And it says, okay, well, I can't clean the blood that well going through the liver, so I'm going to go through these things called varices in your throat. And when you're working out and doing exercise and you're huffing and puffing, you're putting a lot of strain on those varices, but they're below your swallow line. And what happens is they burst and you start bleeding internally. And I didn't realize it because I was still swimming and working out and running and doing stuff, and they had burst. And I passed out one morning I was working in Ohio and near Cincinnati. I actually visited the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Got my picture on the front of the Rolling Stone. They do that for you in the Hall of Fame in case you're ever there, okay? So anyway, I passed out. First time in my life I ever passed out. Not a drinker, never really enjoyed drinking. Never thought me and alcohol got along very well. And once I got hepatitis C, I said, no more alcohol. I haven't had a drink of alcohol forever. But I liked beer, I always liked beer. And I was hoping like hell when I got the new liver that I'd get back to it, but no, that's not gonna happen. But anyway, so I passed out and I went to the hospital because I thought I had been subjected to black mold, okay? Because this room just smelled musty all the time, and I thought I was being subjected to this, and I thought that's what took me down. Doctor told me, he said, I don't know anything about the black mold, because we don't have a test for that, but I can tell you, you're not going nowhere because you're at about 60% of your blood level. So I'd almost bled to death and didn't even know it because it's below your swallow line and you don't taste the blood and you're just bleeding. And the only way you can know it is in your stool. And I told my daughter a couple days prior to that, I said, my stool's really black. She goes, you need to go get that checked out. I went, yeah, I'm fine. You know how guys are and stuff like that, Yeah, I'm fine. I don't need to go check this out. But evidently, I'd almost bled to death. So they had, I was in the hospital back in Ohio for 2 weeks, came back to California and got bursitis and was immediately back in the hospital for another 2 weeks. And then bursitis is where your stomach swells up and you get infection from the fluid in your stomach. And that's what happened to me. From there on out, it was like the doctors told me, he said, you need a liver. I was like, okay. But in order to get that liver, they had to do two things. Number one, get rid of the hepatitis. And number two, I found out I had cancer in the liver. Okay? So I was like, oh, this is not good. They said, in addition to that, your liver is operating only at about 20 or 30%. So you need to take it easy because you're going to keep bursting those varices. So I had to have them tied off 3 more times in 2014. But again, plan and providence of God, I'd lived long enough for the new treatment for hepatitis C. Not interferon anymore. It's called Harvoni or something like that. And you guys have probably all seen the advertisements on TV over about the last year or so. They advertise take control of your life again, and they also advertise about the fact that out of the baby boomers, 1 in 30 will get hepatitis C or test positive for hepatitis C, which makes me kind of wonder what the heck did allopathic medicine do to the babies back in the baby boom area, that a third of them end up with hepatitis C. But anyway, that's another story. I was ready for it. I said, okay, let's do this, because I had to take the treatment for hepatitis C, and I thought it was going to be interferon, but again, like I said, God's provision and plan. I lived long enough that I got the new drug, and I was going to take the cure for hepatitis C and chemotherapy at the same time. And I thought I was going to be really sick. Well, I was sick, but I wasn't sick. And they have the medical community, and I got nothing wrong with them, but a few things. But they had advanced enough in chemotherapy that they infused it directly into my liver, which was fantastic, because I still got sick, don't get me wrong, and I lost some hair, but I didn't get as sick as sitting down and just drip for 8 to 10 hours into your system, and it goes through your whole system. It was directly into my liver. And my wife, who had become I call her a Nazi dietitian, okay? She wouldn't let me eat anything unless it was cooked by her, turned into little Hitler when she found out that I had cancer. And I mean, she would not let me touch anything unless she had cooked it. So I ate everything, and it was totally vegan. No meat, no sugar, no protein, no nothing. And I went down to about 120 pounds. In fact, the doctor told me, he said, you need to gain some weight before this operation, when you get the operation, okay? Or you're not gonna make it through it, because I got down to like 120 pounds. And I said, okay, I'll take care of that. And he goes, no, this is what I want you to take. I want you to drink some of this Ensure, and I want you to eat some meat. And I said, no, I'm not doing that, because I'm not used to it. Plus, Ensure's got nothing but sugar in it, so I don't want anything to do with sugar. And it's got protein in it, and I don't really want anything to do with protein. So again, my wife comes through, and she starts making food made out of beans and legumes and soy and stuff. And I gained 15 pounds in the side of 2 months. And he was like, oh, okay, good. I see you took my advice and drank some Ensure. And I said, no, I didn't. I did what I told you I was not gonna do. I didn't drink the Ensure, and I didn't eat any meat. And he goes, well, how'd you do it? And I went, diet. And diet is really, really important. That's another story. But anyway, so now I need a liver. And they told me, they said, if you go to the liver bank, you got a really good chance you're going to get a liver really fast, because you're AB positive, which means you can take anyone, but you can't cross the bloodlines, because that would be unfair to all the other guys out there that are O, or the normal blood types and stuff like that are waiting for a liver. That would be unfair for them, because you could take it and it wouldn't make any difference. So you have to wait for an AB positive. But he says the thing is they come up every year. Okay, and you'll probably be the only person that needs it, because you're only 3% of the population in the first place. There isn't going to be that many people that are going to need a liver that are AB positive. So you'll probably get it right away. Or you can have somebody donate a part of theirs. And I was talking about it in my bedroom one night with my wife. I said, I don't know of anybody. I'll ask my brother, I'll ask my sister. All of them are really not in really good shape. The only one that's in decent shape is my oldest sister, and she's always been kind of stingy with things, so I'm pretty sure she's not gonna give up. And she lives in Kansas anyway. That means she'd have to come out here and go through all the tests and everything. So, and in walks my son, and he goes, I'll give you part of mine. And I went, are you sure about this? We're talking about a 10 to 15 hour operation. You wouldn't even let me take a hangnail off your toe last week, okay? And he goes, no problem. I got this. And I'm like, okay. 24 years old, in the peak of his, health. He was running these Ratinars and these mud races and stuff all over the place, and he was really in good shape. And not unlike me at 24. I mean, you give me a brick wall, I'd find a way over it or through it, one of the way. But, and I'm pretty sure all of you remember age 24. You're all strong as an ox and, you know, in the peak of life. And of course, he passed all the tests with flying colors. And except for one thing, okay? And he didn't tell us about this until after the operation. All children are born and their right and left ventricle of their hearts are separated. And that's for the blood to flow back and forth during the time they're in the womb. And when they're born, okay, those start growing back together. And they grow together for the rest of their lives. About 5% of the population has a hole that blood flows back and forth between the right and left ventricle, which is not a bad thing when you're young, okay? It becomes a bad thing when you get older because you have a very strong chance of a stroke, okay? So he was 24. But even less of the population, it grows back together with just a little bit what they call a canyon between. No blood flows back and forth, but there's that canyon. It doesn't grow completely back together. Well, he had the canyon. So there was about a 15 to 20% chance that he would not make it through the operation. And he didn't tell me this until after the operation, because I slapped him a whole bunch of times for not telling me, and his mom really got upset with him. But, you know, we made it through. So 10 to 15, so here's the next thing that just blew everybody away down at USC. USC Keck Hospital is where I went, which is probably one of the top 5 in the world for transplants. And I had a doctor whose name I still can't pronounce. He's Greek, and it's something like Somonopoulos Alexopoulos, okay? Everybody called him Dr. Alex. You know, it was real easy to deal with. So anyway, they tell us it's going to be a 10 to 15 hour operation. We're going to have 18 units of blood in the operating room because it is the bloodiest operation you can have. There's an artery that goes straight from your liver straight to your heart. They can't clamp it off because there'd be a blood clot and within seconds you're dead. So the best they can do is just hold it and watch it, you know. And they keep, like I said, they keep 18 units of blood in the operating room, which is 3 times what it takes to stay alive, because they know you're going to bleed like crazy. 10 to 15 hours of operation. You'll be in the IC afterwards 24 to 48 hours, and you'll be in the hospital for at least 10 to 15 days after that. My operation lasted 7.5 hours. When they went outside to tell my family it was over, Alexopoulos, or Dr. Alex, goes out there and he goes, "It's over." Everybody's like, "What do you mean it's over?" Right? I mean, it's like not even 10 hours yet. And he goes, "Oh, no, it's good. It's fantastic. It's unbelievable." Number one, we spent the last half hour just checking everything out just to make sure we didn't miss something. Number two, he didn't take any transfusions. And later, before I checked out of the hospital, Dr. Alex and I were standing in the room, and he told me, he said, in confidence, he said, "You know, somebody was operating in that room, but it wasn't me. I was just doing what I know how to do, but it was so freaking picture perfect, it was unbelievable. We just couldn't believe it because you didn't take one transfusion." He says, "I've been doing this for 15 years at about 10 to 12 a year, okay? And out of that many, only 5 have never taken a transfusion. And the other 4, they're dead. They died on the operating table." So he was down there bragging like crazy down in the lunchroom with all the other doctors and nurses, and I had all kinds of nurses coming in and going, "Oh, you're the guy." And I'm like, "The guy what?" And they goes, "You're the guy Dr. Alex is talking about." And I went, "Okay." So he told me later that story, you know, somebody was operating in that room, but it wasn't me, you know, because it was just unbelievable what happened. I was in the ICU for less than 24 hours. I walked out of that hospital well, you don't walk out, but you get wheeled out. But as soon as I got outside, I stood up and started putting stuff in the back of my car. And the orderly looked at my wife and said, didn't he just... And she said, yeah, but leave him alone. He's too doggone stubborn. And I told him, I said, but I can't drive yet because I still got to stay like this, you know? So I walked out of the hospital in 7 days. So, and everything has just been absolutely miraculous. Right now I'm on about half of the anti-rejection drugs that most people are at in less than 5 years. So everything is just absolutely miraculous. And like I said, I didn't have control over any of that. None of it. And I have really thought most of my life, because of my athleticism, my exercising, my ability to understand numbers and deal with stuff, that I was really the architect of my destiny. No, I'm not. And that taught me that very well. You have no idea how much he loves you and how much he wants to give you, to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you hope and a future. And maybe not in this life. And I read that verse over and over, and I kept, during that time that I was sicker than a dog, my stomach was about out to here, and I was about 120 pounds. I kept reading that verse and listening to Paul say, I don't care. To die is good. To live is good. But I know I'm going to live because I know I still got responsibilities to take care of here. And those responsibilities are plans for handcrafted by God, works of good that he did in advance. Amen. Okay? That I get to participate in. Okay? And all I got to do is choose to do it. So I can't believe how much he's restored. And my wife, I told my wife, long before this ever happened, I told her, I said, you know, when I got the practice I got back in 2006, I thought I was on top of the world. I thought everything was great, and I had a good relationship with God. And I prayed the prayer, you know, of jars of clay. Take my world apart and show me how much you love me. Man, did he take it apart. He tore me down and he put me back together. That unbelievable, just unbelievable. So I want to close with this prayer. A prayer of encouragement for all of you. From the song, again, music is a way of communicating with God, with our heart and our soul, that speaking words often doesn't do, okay? You really, I don't know about you guys, but during the songs, He is King, I was coming to tears over it, because it's just a way, it gets to me all the time. Music is one of those things that's always been really big to me. So this song is by Mercy Me, and it's called Dear Younger Me. So, dear Lord, let all these men know that you have called them, that you have plans for them. They were never meant to carry this beyond the cross. Whatever this is, they were never meant to carry it beyond the cross. They are holy. They are righteous. They are one of the redeemed, set apart with a brand new heart. And they are free, free indeed. And thank you, Lord, for this day, our daily bread. Forgive us of our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom, the glory, and the power forever and ever. And we all say, Amen. Thank you.